Once upon a time, a group of people found themselves trapped in an evil dimension. In this realm, there was a large pit of unending fire in the center of the land, and the people would sometimes throw each other into the pit over petty grudges and disagreements. Despite the danger of the fiery pit, the people were bound by a code of conduct. They were not allowed to intentionally hurt one another. Those who broke this rule would often find themselves around a fire pit, as if drawn there by some invisible force. As time passed, the people began to realize the futility of their actions. They saw that their anger and resentment towards each other only led to more suffering, and that throwing someone into the fire pit did not solve anything. Through their struggles and challenges, the people gradually learned to let go of their grudges and work towards a more peaceful existence. They found ways to collaborate and support each other, and eventually discovered a way to break free from the evil dimension. As they emerged from the realm, they carried with them the hard-learned lessons of their experiences. They knew that their path ahead would not always be easy, but they had the wisdom and resilience to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Once upon a time, there was a small village nestled deep in the forest. The villagers were simple folk, living peaceful lives and tending to their crops and livestock. But as the years went by, a darkness began to descend upon the village. It started with whispers and rumors, tales of strange happenings in the forest and unexplained disappearances. As the villagers grew increasingly fearful, they turned to their leader, a wise old man known for his knowledge of the forest and its ways. But even he could not explain the dark forces at work. One night, as the villagers slept, a terrible presence descended upon the village. The air was thick with an unnatural chill, and shadows lurked in every corner. The villagers awoke to screams and chaos, as the darkness claimed one after another. The wise old man led the remaining villagers into the heart of the forest, seeking shelter and safety from the malevolent force that had taken hold of their village. But even there, they were not safe. As they huddled together, the wise old man revealed a terrible truth. He had made a deal with the darkness, trading the souls of the villagers for his own power and knowledge. And now, he was the only one who knew how to stop it. The villagers were horrified and betrayed, but there was no time for regret. With the wise old man's guidance, they banded together to fight the darkness, using all the knowledge and courage they could muster. In the end, the villagers emerged victorious, but at a great cost. Many had lost loved ones, and the village was forever scarred by the darkness that had consumed it. The wise old man was never seen again, rumored to have paid the ultimate price for his folly. As the years passed, the villagers worked to rebuild their lives, but the memory of the darkness lingered on. They knew that the forest held many secrets and dangers, and that they could never truly be safe. And so they lived in fear, knowing that the darkness could return at any moment, and that they would be powerless to stop it. In a distant land, there was a great city that rose up from the earth like a monument to human ambition. The people who lived there were proud and powerful, their minds honed to razor sharpness by years of study and discipline. But there was a darkness at the heart of the city, a force that whispered in the ears of the people and threatened to tear them apart. It was a shadowy presence, always lurking just out of sight, that fed on their fears and insecurities. As the years went by, the people grew increasingly divided. They fought amongst themselves, each group convinced that they alone held the truth. They forgot the values that had once bound them together, and the darkness grew stronger with each passing day. In the depths of the city, there was a man who saw the truth. He was a scholar, a wise and learned man who had studied the ancient texts and knew the secrets of the human mind. He understood the darkness, and knew that it could not be defeated with weapons or armies. And so he set out to heal the city, to restore the bonds that had been broken and drive out the darkness that threatened to consume them all. He worked tirelessly, traveling from group to group, teaching them the ancient wisdom that had been lost in their struggles. At first, his efforts were met with suspicion and hostility. But gradually, as the people began to see the truth in his words, they began to come together. They worked to rebuild the bridges that had been destroyed, to heal the wounds that had festered for so long. But even as they worked, the darkness continued to lurk at the edges of their vision, a constant reminder of the struggle that lay ahead. It was a long and difficult journey, but the people had found a new hope, a new reason to believe in themselves and in each other. In the end, they emerged victorious, not just over the darkness that had threatened to consume them, but over the deeper struggles that had haunted them on a subconscious level. They had found a new way of living, a new way of seeing the world and their place in it. And they knew that no matter what the future held, they had the strength and resilience to face it together. James had always felt like something was off about him. As a child, he would hear strange whispers in his head and feel an overwhelming sense of dread that would make him want to hide under his bed covers. His parents told him that it was just his imagination, that he was an anxious child, and that he would grow out of it. But the whispers never went away. As James grew older, they became louder, more insistent, and more sinister. He began to see shadows moving in the corners of his vision, and he felt a cold breath on the back of his neck. He would wake up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, convinced that there were demons lurking in his room. Despite his fears, James tried to live a normal life. He got a job, rented an apartment, and tried to make friends. But the demons inside his head wouldn't let him be. They whispered to him at work, making him paranoid and anxious. They followed him home, haunting his dreams and making him wake up screaming. As time went by, James became more and more isolated. He stopped going out, stopped answering phone calls, and stopped leaving his apartment. The demons inside his head had taken over, filling him with a sense of dread that he couldn't shake. One day, the demons pushed James over the edge. He barricaded himself inside his apartment, convinced that the world outside was filled with darkness and evil. He scribbled frantic notes to himself, warning of the demons that were coming to get him. In the end, the police broke down the door to his apartment and found James curled up in a corner, rocking back and forth and muttering to himself. His eyes were wide and wild, and his face was contorted with fear. The doctors said that James had gone insane from the demons trapped inside his mind. They said that the whispers and shadows were just symptoms of a mental illness, a disease of the brain that could be treated with medication and therapy. But James knew the truth. He knew that the demons were real, and that they were still out there, waiting to get him. He knew that no matter how much medication they gave him, he would never be truly free from the demons that had taken over his mind. His name was Jack, and he was the unluckiest man in the world. No matter what he did, no matter how hard he tried, things just never seemed to go his way. He lost his job, his girlfriend, and his apartment all in the span of a week. His car broke down, his phone died, and he got mugged on the way home from the grocery store. Jack tried to stay positive, tried to believe that things would get better. But the more he tried, the worse things got. He was evicted from his apartment, and he had to move in with his parents. He got sick, lost all his money to medical bills, and had to drop out of college. Through it all, Jack remained optimistic. He believed that someday his luck would turn around, that he would catch a break and finally be able to make something of himself. But that day never came. The bad luck just kept piling up, until it seemed like the whole world was against him. One day, Jack decided that he couldn't take it anymore. He packed a bag, left a note for his parents, and walked out the door. He had no plan, no destination, no hope. He just wanted to disappear, to leave behind all the bad luck and misery that had been his constant companion for so long. And that's exactly what he did. Jack wandered for days, sleeping under bridges, begging for food, and avoiding people as much as possible. He was a ghost, a shadow, a forgotten man. And then, one day, he was gone. No one knows what happened to Jack. Some say he drowned in a river, others say he was hit by a car, and still others say he just vanished into thin air. But one thing is certain, he was never found. No trace of him was ever discovered, no sign that he ever existed at all. Some say that Jack's bad luck finally caught up with him, that he was swallowed up by the universe's endless appetite for suffering. Others say that he found peace, that he finally escaped the terrible curse that had plagued him all his life. But no one knows for sure. Jack remains a mystery, a legend, a cautionary tale. A man with so much bad luck that he disappeared and was never found. In a world much like ours, there existed a secret dimension that was accessible only to a select few. Within this dimension, there was a key that held the power to save the world from impending doom. The key was protected by a powerful force, and only those who were deemed worthy could enter the dimension and retrieve it. For centuries, the key remained hidden, waiting for the right person to come along and claim it. One day, a young woman named Sarah stumbled upon the secret dimension by accident. She was a scientist, and she had been working on a top-secret project that involved a breakthrough in interdimensional travel. When she accidentally stumbled upon the secret dimension, she was both frightened and intrigued. As she explored the dimension, she learned about the key and the power it held. She knew that the world was on the brink of destruction, and she realized that the key could be the only thing that could save it. Sarah was determined to retrieve the key, but she knew that the task would not be easy. The force protecting the key was powerful, and it would take a great deal of skill and courage to overcome it. Undeterred, Sarah began to plan her approach. She spent weeks studying the secrets of the dimension, learning everything she could about the force that protected the key. She even managed to make contact with others who had attempted to retrieve the key in the past, and she learned from their successes and failures. Finally, the day arrived for Sarah to make her attempt. She entered the dimension with a sense of purpose, knowing that the fate of the world rested on her success. As she moved through the dimension, Sarah encountered a series of challenges, each more difficult than the last. She had to use all her skill and knowledge to overcome them, but finally, she arrived at the location where the key was kept. The force protecting the key was unlike anything Sarah had ever encountered. It was a massive, swirling vortex of energy that seemed to be alive. Sarah knew that to retrieve the key, she would have to face the force head-on. With all the courage and determination she possessed, Sarah charged forward, facing the force with everything she had. In the end, it was a battle that lasted 4 hours, but finally, Sarah emerged victorious. With the key in her possession, Sarah returned to the world of men. She knew that she had the power to save the world, but she also knew that the key was not enough on its own. She would need the help of others who believed in the power of the key and the importance of saving the world. And so, Sarah set out on a new mission, to gather together a team of like-minded individuals who could help her use the key to save the world. It would be a long and difficult journey, but Sarah was ready for it. With the key in her hand and the courage in her heart, she knew that anything was possible. With the help of her team, Sarah was able to unlock the power of the key and use it to save the world from impending doom. She discovered that the key had the ability to manipulate the very fabric of reality, and with it, she and her team were able to rewrite the course of history. But the power of the key was not without consequences. As they used it to reshape the world, Sarah and her team began to realize that the changes they were making were having unintended effects. Time and space began to warp and twist around them, and the lines between reality and fantasy began to blur. In the end, Sarah and her team had to make a choice. They could either continue using the key to try and fix the damage they had caused, or they could destroy it and return the world to its natural state. It was a difficult decision, but in the end, Sarah knew that the key had to be destroyed. She realized that the power it held was too great for any one person to wield, and that the only way to truly save the world was to let go of the power that had caused so much destruction. And so, with a heavy heart, Sarah and her team destroyed the key, sending it back to the secret dimension from which it had come. They knew that the world would never be the same again, but they also knew that they had done the right thing. In the end, Sarah returned to her life as a scientist, but she carried with her the memories of the incredible adventure she had been a part of. And she knew that, even though the key was gone, its legacy would live on, inspiring generations to come to believe in the power of hope, and the ability of even the smallest person to make a difference. When she was just a child, Emily had heard stories about a key that could unlock a secret dimension of unimaginable horror. It was said that whoever held the key had the power to unleash the most terrifying creatures from the depths of the unknown. As she grew older, Emily became obsessed with the idea of finding the key. She spent countless hours researching, studying ancient texts and consulting with experts on the occult. And finally, after years of searching, she found it. But when Emily unlocked the secret dimension, she quickly realized that the stories she had heard were not just legends. The creatures that emerged from the portal were more terrifying than anything she had ever imagined. They were twisted, misshapen monstrosities, with razor-sharp teeth and glowing red eyes. They slithered and crawled their way through the portal, driven by an insatiable hunger for human flesh. At first, Emily tried to fight them off, but they were too powerful. She watched helplessly as they devoured her friends and family, one by one. And soon, she knew that she was next. In a desperate attempt to stop the creatures, Emily destroyed the key, hoping that it would close the portal and trap the monsters back in the secret dimension. But it was too late. The creatures had already taken root in the real world, and they were spreading. Emily spent the rest of her days as a recluse, haunted by the knowledge of what she had unleashed upon the world. She knew that she could never fully atone for her mistakes, but she made a vow to do everything in her power to stop the creatures from spreading. And so, Emily spent the rest of her life fighting the creatures, one by one. It was a never-ending battle, but she knew that it was her duty to protect the world from the horrors that lay just beyond the portal. And even though she was consumed by fear and regret, she knew that she was the only one who could save humanity from the creatures that had been unleashed by her own curiosity. As Emily continued to battle the creatures that had been unleashed from the secret dimension, she discovered a way to send them back. It wasn't an easy task, but it was the only hope that she had of saving humanity from the horrors that she had unleashed. She spent years researching and experimenting, searching for a way to close the portal and send the creatures back to where they came from. And finally, she discovered a powerful ritual that could banish the creatures back to the secret dimension. But a ritual required a sacrifice. Emily knew that she would have to offer up something of great value in order to seal the portal and end the creature's reign of terror. So she made the ultimate sacrifice, offering up her own life in exchange for the safety of humanity. She performed the ritual, channeling all of her energy into closing the portal and sending the creatures back to their world. As she completed the ritual, Emily felt her body grow weak, and she knew that she had only moments left to live. But she also knew that her sacrifice had not been in vain. The creatures were banished back to their world, and the portal was closed forever. Humanity was safe once again, and Emily's memory was honored as a hero who had given her life to protect others. As the years passed, people remembered Emily's sacrifice and told her story as a cautionary tale. They knew that curiosity could be a dangerous thing, and they vowed to never again meddle with the unknown. But despite the tragic end of her story, Emily's legacy lived on, a testament to the power of selflessness and the importance of protecting the world from the horrors that lay just beyond our understanding. For centuries, a powerful key had been hidden on Earth, kept safe from those who sought to use it to destroy the world. The key had the ability to seal off a dangerous dimension that held unimaginable horrors, and it was said that if the wrong person got hold of it, the consequences would be catastrophic. Despite the best efforts of the guardians of the key, an evil character had somehow learned of its existence and was determined to find it. He knew that he could use it to open the dimension and unleash its horrors upon the world. The guardians of the key did all they could to protect it, but the evil character was cunning and relentless. He employed every means at his disposal to find the key, leaving no stone unturned in his quest. Eventually, he found a way to break through the dimensional barrier and enter the realm that held the key. It was a perilous journey, and many would have given up long before he had, but he was driven by his desire to obtain the key and bring about the end of the world. With great determination and cunning, the evil character finally found the key. He held it aloft, a cruel smile playing across his lips as he prepared to unleash the horrors of the dimension upon the world. But as he inserted the key into the lock, something strange happened. The key began to glow, and the dimensional portal began to shrink and collapse in on itself. The evil character was suddenly thrown back, as if by an unseen force, and he was consumed by the closing portal. In that moment, the guardians of the key appeared, having used their powers to summon the energy required to seal off the dimension for all time. The key had been a trap, a test of character and determination to weed out those who would abuse its power. The world was saved from the horrors that lay beyond the dimensional portal, and the evil character was never seen again. The guardians of the key returned it to its hiding place, knowing that it would always be safe from those who would seek to use it for their own nefarious purposes. And as the years passed, people came to understand the importance of keeping the key hidden and protected, for the fate of the world could rest in the hands of just one person. Ethan had always been fascinated with the idea of exploring abandoned places, so when he heard about the old abandoned mansion on the outskirts of town, he knew he had to check it out. The mansion had been abandoned for years, and was said to be haunted by the ghosts of the previous owners, who had all died mysterious deaths. Undeterred, Ethan made his way to the mansion one night, and with nothing but a flashlight and his sense of adventure. As he made his way through the dusty, cobweb-filled rooms, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. But he brushed it off as his imagination, and continued his exploration. It wasn't until he reached the basement that things took a dark turn. As he descended the creaky stairs, he heard a faint whispering in the darkness. At first, he couldn't make out what was being said, but as he got closer, the whispering became louder. It was then that he saw her, a ghostly figure in a white dress, standing at the far end of the basement. She beckoned to him, her bony finger pointing towards a door that he hadn't noticed before. Without thinking, Ethan approached the door, feeling a sense of dread wash over him. As he pushed the door open, he was met with a blinding light. When his eyes adjusted, he found himself in a large, circular room. In the center of the room was a pedestal, and on the pedestal was a small, silver key. Ethan knew what the key was for. It was said to be the only thing that could seal the portal to the underworld that lay beneath the mansion. But before he could grab the key, a voice spoke out from the shadows. "I've been waiting for you, Ethan," said a voice. "I knew you'd be foolish enough to come here." Ethan spun around, trying to locate the source of the voice. And then, he saw him, a figure dressed in black, with glowing red eyes and a sinister grin. "You can't have the key," Ethan said, his voice trembling. "It's too dangerous." But the figure just laughed. "Oh, I'm not after the key," he said. "I'm after you." And with that, the figure lunged towards Ethan, and the two engaged in a fierce struggle. Ethan knew he was outmatched, but he refused to give up. He fought with all his might, determined to protect the world from the evil that lay beyond the portal. In the end, It was a close battle, but Ethan emerged victorious. The figure lay on the ground, defeated, and Ethan reached for the key. As he picked it up, he felt a surge of power flow through him, the power to seal a portal and save the world from destruction. With the key in his hand, Ethan made his way back up the stairs and out of the mansion. He knew that he had just faced a great evil, but he felt a sense of pride knowing that he had come out on top. But little did he know, the evil he had faced was just the beginning. The battle between good and evil was far from over, and Ethan would soon find himself facing even greater challenges in the days to come. In the days that followed, the man faced even more daunting challenges. He encountered dark, winding forests and treacherous, icy mountains, all while being pursued relentlessly by the shadowy figure. The man's food and water supplies dwindled, and he grew weak and tired. The shadowy figure was always one step behind him, its glowing eyes piercing through the darkness. As he journeyed deeper into the unknown, the man found that the very air around him seemed to thicken and constrict his movements. He was filled with a sense of dread and apprehension that he couldn't shake, even as he continued on his quest. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity of hardship and struggle, the man arrived at the entrance to the dimension. He found that the key was guarded by a powerful and malevolent entity, one that seemed to be composed of pure darkness. The man battled fiercely with the entity, using all of his strength and cunning to fend off its relentless attacks. Just when he thought all hope was lost, he remembered the words of the wise old man, and he called upon the power of his inner light. The man felt a surge of energy and strength, and he pushed back against the darkness with all of his might. The entity was thrown back, and the man finally claimed the key. With the key in hand, the man used all his remaining strength to close the dimension and seal away the darkness forever. The world was safe once again, but the man knew that the memories of his harrowing journey would stay with him forever.